Namo Buddhaya. Welcome to another video. Sometimes, no matter how many people are around us, we feel we're the only person that living in this world. We feel lonely, we feel left out. Loneliness can be dangerous if we did not know how to handle it. But one thing that we don't realize is the same loneliness that is killing us, the same loneliness that disturbs us, can be changed into a blessing in life. Always remember, every challenge and every difficult situation that comes into your life can be changed into a blessing if you know how to handle it. So from this video, let's talk about how can we deal with the loneliness in life and how can we change this loneliness to a blessing in our life. To deal with loneliness, first of all, we need to understand what is the reason behind the loneliness. Now, so many people think that the loneliness or the suffering that you feel depends on other people, right? Depends on an outer source. When people leave you, when you are separated from your loved ones, you feel lonely. But that is not always the case, because even in the middle of relationships, even when you're being with other people, even when you're being with your family members, you might feel lonely, because the loneliness does not occur because of other people or an outer source. Loneliness occurs when your interactions with other people does not match your desires or does not match your expectations. And that expectation creates the vacuum of that missingness in life, and that creates the suffering. So the Buddha says that the loneliness or this suffering does not depend on an outer source, but also it depends on an inner problem. So the Buddha mentions this in Dhammapada verse 338. The Buddha says, just as a tree, though cut down, sprouts up again if its root remain uncut and firm. Even so, until the craving that lies dormant is rooted out, suffering springs up again and again. So Buddha refers this to a tree, right? If a person comes to a tree and if he needs to remove the tree, so what he does is he cut down the tree from the trunk, okay? No matter how many times you cut down the tree from the trunk, it will grow back. Because, what is the reason? Because the root system is there still. As long as the root system is rooted on the ground, in the ground, the tree will grow back again and again. So the Buddha says, as long as the reason or the root cause for suffering is there, the suffering will spring up again and again. So what we have done in our whole life is trying to kill loneliness, but not the reason for the loneliness, right? So first of all, we need to understand that keeping your happiness, keeping your total happiness on other people and expecting other people to be around you totally and expecting other people to live up to your expectations is not going to happen all the time. And that creates the suffering and that creates the loneliness. So one thing that we need to understand is that loneliness does not always depend on an outer source. It depends on the cravings and the desires and the expectations that we are holding onto the interactions with other people. Okay, so luckily, because of this, we can change and we can convert this loneliness to a blessing. Okay, so how to do this? First of all, we need to change the perspective that we are holding onto the loneliness. So let me tell you a story about this. In the Buddha's time, before his enlightenment, he was practicing a practice called self-mortification. In this time, there were 5 monks who were helping to the Buddha. Now, these 5 monks had a lot of expectations on the Buddha that one day he will become enlightened and we will be also able to listen to his teachings and be enlightened. So he was practicing that, and they believed that the self-mortification or giving a lot of suffering to the body is the only way to find the liberation. But alas, one day the Buddha gave up this practice of self-mortification after practicing it for a long time. But the Buddha gave up this practice by understanding that this is no longer going to help him. And now all the expectations were destroyed. And these 5 monks were disappointed about the Buddha. So what they did, they left the Buddha and they went to Varanasi. And what happens to the Buddha was all alone in the middle of the jungle. He was abandoned. But here's the thing, he was not lonely. He was alone, but he was not lonely. Why? Because that loneliness, that silence, and that not being with around other people gave him the time to focus more into himself, right? So one thing that we need to understand is that when we feel lonely, it is an opportunity for us to focus on ourselves, right? It is a better time for you to focus on other people, because most of the time when we are too much around other people, we don't get much time to be with ourselves, be in our own company. So one thing that we need to understand is that loneliness creates the time and opportunity for you to focus more on yourself. Okay, so if you hold on to that view and think that, oh, now I am lonely and then now I am alone, but now this is the chance for me to focus on my inner values, so that you can build up your inner values, and you can care more about yourself, and you can focus on your what mistakes that do I have inside my life, what should I do and what should I practice. The more you focus onto yourself, you can develop and you get the chance to develop your inner habits and good values into you, so that it creates a better personality inside you. So understand that the loneliness or not being around other people is not always a suffering. It is an opportunity for all of you to build up a better life. So what you have to do, get this time and take this time and take this opportunity for you to be more focused into yourself and to practice this self-love, self-compassion, and also to build up good habits in your life. If you understand this way of dealing with loneliness, the loneliness will become a blessing to your life. And one day you will thank for that loneliness, because it created who you are today. So understand that loneliness does not always depend on other people. It always depends on what view you're holding onto this experience in life. So be more focused onto yourself, into yourself, and create a better life for you. Namo Buddhaya.